Illinois was downgraded this week. There's talk about Illinois going bankrupt. And it's not just idle talk. You're hearing fund managers talk about it. How much of a possibility is this?
Okay, so I am someone who never would have foreseen, a year prior, any of the stuff that went on in financial crises. So I never say never. But states have incredible flexibility not to go bankrupt, aside from constitutional bans from them going bankrupt. So as I said, what they can do is not pass through any type of revenues to the localities, where the localities really suffer. Then you have the other issue where crime rates soar because the localities don't have enough money to spend on public safety, basic public services, education, and poverty increases. And that's not sustainable for any state. It's hard for me to imagine that we are close to the point where any state would go bankrupt, but it is increasingly clear to me that so many local governments are under serious duress, and that more of them will be on the precipice of going bankrupt, or at an inflection point where they have to make radical changes.
Well, you're seeing problems in Stockton, Jefferson County, Harrisburg. Detroit is now under the control of Michigan. But with regards to Illinois, because President Obama is from Illinois, would Uncle Sam come in and rescue the state of Illinois through some backhanded way if necessary?
Well, there are a couple of ways that the Obama administration has tried to help the states. One, through the American Reinvestment Recovery Act. But the states didn't do what they were supposed to do with that money. They padded or they closed budget gaps. They didn't spend the money on building and investing in the future in terms of infrastructure and job creation. So that fell flat. There are things that this administration is trying to do to help the states, but nothing's going to be enough for the holes that have been created by the states. And you can't single out one state. I mean, look, anything could happen, but it's hard to imagine the country, the federal government bailing out a much more economically significant state, let's call it California. It's hard to imagine that would fly, given the fact that you're having building political power through these central corridor states, namely Texas and others, that are just going to say, forget it. We've been conservative. We've done the right thing. We're not bailing out these guys who overspent, and they should get what they paid for.
Well, still, President Ford famously said to New York, drop dead. But eventually, the U.S. did come in a backhanded way and help out New York City. So is it really hard to imagine that President Obama would do the same thing for his home state?
So, Greg, I'm so glad you brought up that example, because it's an excellent example. New York City, so famously remembered for being on the precipice of going bust and being saved, by Felix Roate and so many other great folks. That was a city in a vacuum at the time, right? Now you have too many cities in this similar instance, and so the problem is just too large to pick one and pick one favorite. And if it were only back in the 70s, and if it were only one city, we'd be very lucky. But sadly, it's too many cities.
So after your 60 Minutes interview about 2 or 3 years ago, you said that we're going to see multiple city and municipality bankruptcies. We didn't see it. Municipal bonds sold off. And then they recovered quite nicely. Were you just early with your call? I mean, is it going to get worse from here on in? Because the trend is in your favor right now. They are starting to pile up when you see what's happening in places like Detroit and Illinois.
I tend to always be early with my calls, and that's how you make the right call, and you save people money and make people money. It was, I think that I made the call. I've invested so much into this issue, and the call that I made was, hey, everybody's got to pay attention to these issues, because everybody's involved. So be it taxpayers, be it pensioners, be it bondholders, everybody's going to be involved. And be it the people who fall into none of those categories, the people in need. So I think that yes, I've been, look, I was early to the credit crisis. I've been early on all of my stuff. I'm glad that call was made early because in 2010, 36 new governors were elected and given political will to actually do the right thing and make changes. So that's terrific. Sadly, the problem's so endemic that you're seeing really, more and more struggling municipalities. And again, the states can say whatever they want. They've got surpluses and whatnot, but the problem's not fixed. This is a structural issue, and it all comes down to jobs. So, when anybody complains, oh, this is a jobless recovery, this is a problem, let's do something, we know what to do. We know how to create jobs. You educate, you retrain, and you invest in infrastructure. And also you attract businesses, because all of that has the ripple effect of building prosperity for everybody. And that's what the Central Corridor states are doing. It's really extraordinary how much onshoring is going on with not just U.S. companies coming back to the United States, but non-U.S. companies investing in the United States because of cheap energy, and because the labor differential between labor and all-in differential between producing in the U.S. and producing in China has all but disappeared. So it's a great time to invest in the U.S. and I think certain states are showing the way to do it, and other states have just got to get in line because there's too much at risk. There's too much at stake if they don't.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.